She wore a revealing outfit that caught the man's attention. The man looked left and right and started letting his thoughts wander. The girl was an assistant hired by the writer, staying by his side all day and patiently looking after his daughter. The writer deeply loved his family. Although he liked the girl, he fought hard to restrain himself. Until that day, when his wife took their daughter out, the writer was left alone in the room with the girl. But while they were working, the girl's clothing accidentally became revealing again. The writer quickly turned away, yet secretly watched her from behind. When they were discussing the script, the girl mentioned a venomous snake and adjusted her clothes, revealing her shoulder. The writer couldn't hold back any longer. He touched her shoulder and leaned up to kiss her, but the girl shoved him away. The writer's face filled with confusion. The girl felt helpless and left Mike's house in tears. When she got home, her mother kept asking why she was so upset, so the girl finally told the truth. Her mother was furious and took her to a lawyer, hoping to collect the rest of her wages as soon as possible. But when the lawyer heard that the girl had also been harassed by her employer, he immediately grabbed a calculator and ran the numbers. According to the calculation, the girl could still get $230,000 in compensation. He hadn't wanted to make a big deal of it, but her mother was blinded by the money and insisted on using that huge sum to sue Mike. The court summons soon arrived at the house and was received by Mike's wife. She already suffered from depression and needed daily medication just to stay mentally stable. Seeing the summons, she assumed her husband was having an affair and immediately lost her composure. Right when she was bathing their daughter, the little girl insisted on playing with the other girl. The wife's rage boiled over and a tragic accident led to her daughter's death. Once she came back to her senses, she couldn't accept what she had done and attempted to end her life. When Mike rushed home and found his wife in critical condition, he immediately called for help. It was only then that he saw the summons on the table and finally understood the whole story. When he discovered that his daughter had died, he finally couldn't hold back and broke down crying. At the court mediation, the girl had already been waiting there. Mike arrived much later. He said nothing at all and simply pulled out a check. The girl immediately lowered her head, too guilty to look him in the eye. They had still wanted to give Mike a chance to negotiate, but he was so decisive. The girl felt uneasy and anxious. The girl started having trouble sleeping, always feeling that something was about to happen. Her mother, however, paid no attention and used the huge compensation to take the whole family on a beach vacation. The girl remained lost in thought. She went out alone to fetch water and accidentally spotted Mike's figure. She adjusted her clothes and showed her shoulder. The man couldn't resist reaching out to touch her. The woman didn't refuse, and the man boldly kissed her, only for the girl to turn around and sue him. His wife and daughter had died because of it. The girl felt deep guilt and lived in constant fear. She went on the beach vacation with her family but still saw the man's silhouette. When she told her family about it, they didn't care at all, because the man was a wealthy writer who would never come to a place where poor people vacation. Besides, his wife and daughter had died because of his own poor character, so there was no need for her to blame herself. The girl felt that made sense and slowly let go of her worry. But that very night her younger brother had an accident. When she ran to the beach, her brother was already in critical condition. She was told he had jumped into the sea to save someone and ended up losing his own life. The girl was terrified. She looked up and saw Mike's face, becoming even more certain this was Mike's revenge. But the medical examiner determined her brother had drowned, and her father also urged her not to overthink it. Still, she was convinced Mike was retaliating against her. For her family's safety, the girl lowered her pride and wrote Mike many letters, but he never replied. Mike also began to vanish from the world. The girl lived in daily fear and gradually grew listless and depressed, until half a year later, she finally saw Mike's figure on television. Her new novel was receiving a lot of attention, full of dark revenge plots, and she said all her inspiration came from a certain woman. The girl instantly felt a chill run down her spine. Just then the phone rang. Her older brother told her that their parents had accidentally eaten poisonous mushrooms and were being rushed to the hospital. The girl ran to the hospital in tears, only to be told that her father had already died, while her mother's entire body cells equipment damaged. She had already become a high-level paraplegic. The girl was even more certain this was Mike's revenge, because while she was working she had once told Mike what poisonous mushrooms looked like and also told him that her mother was an expert at cooking mushrooms, eating mushroom pie with her father every year on their wedding anniversary. But her older brother kept comforting her that it was only an accident. The girl refused to believe it no matter what. That very night, when her brother was driving home, someone suddenly dragged him out of the car. The man cursed her brother while holding an iron chain and fatally attacking him. By the time the police arrived, the killer had already fled. The girl finally broke down. She knew Mike was retaliating against her, so she actively reported it to the police. But the police chief was completely certain Mike had nothing to do with the case. The killer had committed the murder after receiving an anonymous tip claiming her brother had seduced his wife. The girl became even more convinced this was Mike's revenge. She found a well-known reporter and wanted him to cover her theory, but without any evidence the reporter couldn't just chase rumors. Still, Mike was at the peak of his fame. If they dug up dirt on him at this moment, they could take him down in one stroke. It turned out the reporter had once been a writer himself, but his reputation and works were nowhere near Mike's. He searched everywhere for evidence, yet the situation only grew stranger. The girl's younger brother had died saving someone, but no information about the person he rescued could be found. Her parents had been poisoned by eating the wrong mushrooms, yet the neighbor aunt also said the girl's mother was an expert at cooking mushrooms and could never have mistaken them. As for the man who killed her older brother, he was already a convicted murderer. Breaking out of prison and killing again wasn't strange. The reporter found Mike and confronted him face to face about the killings, but Mike flatly denied everything. Even though the murder plots appeared in his novels, he had so many readers that someone might simply be imitating them. The reporter had nothing to say and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, a nursing home caught fire for no reason, and the person who died just happened to be the girl's mother. The arsonist was arrested by the police, but that person was only only a fool. The reporter knew it was Mike taking revenge, and the girl also began blaming him. If he had published the theory earlier, her mother wouldn't have died. The reporter was filled with guilt. Following the girl's theory, he stayed up all night writing an article and published it. He never expected that what followed would put his own life in danger. The girl exposed her shoulder. The man thought it was a signal and casually reached out to touch her. Who knew the girl would suddenly stand up, curse the man for being shameless, and sue him in court. Because of that, his wife lost her mind and a tragic accident led to their daughter's death in the bathroom. The man decided to take revenge. With only the lightest of methods, he destroyed the girl's entire family. The girl found the reporter for help and exposed all her theories. Who would have thought that a report without any factual basis would get the reporter fired from his company? The girl lived in constant worry, her mental state growing worse and worse until she needed medication to cope. What crushed her most was that Mike's novel attracted countless fans, among them her own younger sister. The girl's mental condition kept deteriorating while Mike was at the peak of his life and his novel was selling extraordinarily well. At the press conference, Mike talked at length about his life experiences. He knew the girl was also there and deliberately said those things to provoke her. The girl understood Mike's intention. She found Mike, actively apologized to him, and admitted she had already learned her lesson and now understood the pain of Mike losing his family. The girl asked him when he would stop. Mike replied that it completely depended on the girl. The girl finally understood. She said she was willing to do anything as long as Mike would spare her younger sister. Mike swore on his daughter's name. After receiving a definite answer, the girl made a tragic decision to end her life. At the girl's funeral, Mike also attended willingly, holding the girl's younger sister in his arms. The reporter arrived just in time and cursed Mike for being shameless, but Mike said they had both lost the most important members of their families and the wounds in their hearts were enough to bridge the gap between them. Mike threatened the reporter if he didn't want to end up the same way as the girl, he should stop meddling. The reporter said nothing more and could only watch them walk away.